A heart-wrenching love story that will leave you breathless. When billionaire Nathan Brooks discovers his lost childhood love Emma working as a cleaner at his wedding venue, their world turns upside down. What secrets tore them apart 12 years ago? Why is she scrubbing floors while he's about to marry someone else? The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the marble floor as Nathan Brooks adjusted his platinum cufflinks for the third time that evening. Tomorrow, in less than 18 hours, he would stand at this very altar and marry Sophia Whitmore, cementing his place among Manhattan's elite. The grand crystal ballroom gleamed around him, a testament to wealth and power that his father would have envied. At 32, Nathan had everything. Brooks Financial managed $12 billion in assets. His penthouse overlooked Central Park. His bride-to-be was beautiful, connected, and perfect on paper. Yet standing in this opulent space, surrounded by white roses and golden trim, he felt hollow. The coordinator had left an hour ago, assuring him that the wine stain near the altar would be gone by morning. The cleaning crew was handling it, she'd said. Nathan should have gone home to his bachelor party, but something kept him here, walking the empty ballroom like a man preparing for his execution rather than his wedding. That's when he heard it. Soft crying echoing from behind one of the marble pillars. Nathan moved toward the sound, his Italian leather shoes silent on the polished floor. What he found made his world tilt off its axis. A woman knelt beside the pillar, scrubbing desperately at a red wine stain. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the blue uniform of City Clean Services. Tears streamed down her face as she worked, as if removing the stain was the most important thing in the world. But it wasn't just any cleaning woman. Emma. Her name escaped his lips like a prayer, like a curse. The woman froze, her hand still gripping the scrub brush. Slowly, she turned around, and Nathan found himself staring into the same green eyes that had haunted his dreams for 12 years. Emma Claire. His first love. His everything. The girl who had vanished from his life without explanation when they were both 20, leaving only a note and a heart that had never fully healed. Nathan. Her voice was barely a whisper. She scrambled to her feet, dropping the cleaning supplies. I didn't know you were still here. They stood facing each other across an ocean of marble and time. Nathan in his custom suit worth more than most people made in a year, Emma in a uniform that bore someone else's company logo. The contrast was devastating. What are you doing here? He asked, though the uniform made it obvious. The real question burning in his throat was why the woman he'd once planned to marry was now scrubbing the floor where he would wed someone else. I work for the cleaning company that services this venue. Emma's voice was stronger now, but he could hear the tremor beneath. I had no idea this was your wedding until I saw your name on the work order. Nathan stepped closer, drinking in every detail of her face. She was still beautiful, perhaps more so than he remembered, but there were lines around her eyes that spoke of hardship. Her hands were rough from work, calloused in ways they'd never been when she used to trace them along his jawline. Emma, where have you been? Why did you disappear? I looked for you everywhere. Her green eyes flashed with something between pain and fury. Did you really? Because from where I stand, it looks like you did just fine without me. The words hit him like a physical blow. Nathan felt 12 years of buried anguish rising to the surface, all the questions he'd never gotten to ask, all the nights he'd wondered what he'd done wrong. You left me a note, he said quietly. You said you needed space, that we wanted different things. You said not to follow you. And you didn't. Emma's voice cracked. You didn't even try. I respected your wishes. That's what you wanted, wasn't it? What I wanted. Emma laughed bitterly, bending to gather her cleaning supplies. Nathan, I was 20 years old and terrified. I needed you to fight for me, to prove that what we had meant something. It meant everything to me, Nathan said desperately, reaching out as if to stop her from leaving again. Emma, you were everything to me. She straightened, meeting his eyes with a look that cut straight through him. Then why are you marrying someone else tomorrow? The question hung between them like a blade. Nathan opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. What could he possibly say that wouldn't sound like a betrayal of everything they'd once shared? Tell me what really happened, he said instead, moving closer despite Emma's obvious desire to flee. I never understood why you left. Emma set down her cleaning bucket and looked directly into his eyes. For a moment, Nathan saw past the walls she'd built, glimpsed the vulnerable young woman who had loved him completely. My father got sick. Lung cancer. Her voice was steady, but Nathan caught the slight tremor in her hands. We had no insurance, no money for treatment. He needed surgery that cost more than my family had ever seen. Nathan felt his stomach drop. Emma's father had been like a second parent to him during their relationship, always welcoming him into their modest home with warmth and Sunday dinners that tasted better than anything money could buy. I tried to tell you, Emma continued, but you were so focused on your internship at Goldman Sachs. You talked constantly about the important people you were meeting, the networking events, the opportunities opening up. You were building your future, and I was watching mine collapse. You could have told me anyway. I would have helped. With what money? You were living on ramen noodles and dreams just like me. Emma's laugh was hollow. Besides, your new colleagues at Goldman made it clear I didn't fit into the world you were entering. Nathan remembered those early days at the firm. The pressure to conform, to present the right image. His colleagues had made subtle comments about Emma's background, her father's blue-collar job, her lack of social connections. He dismissed their snobbishness then, but perhaps Emma had felt the sting more keenly than he'd realized. So what did you do? He asked, though he dreaded the answer. Emma took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her words shattered what remained of Nathan's world. Richard Whitmore offered to pay for my father's treatment. The name hit Nathan like a physical blow. Richard Whitmore. Sophia's father. The real estate mogul who had become his mentor and future father-in-law. The man who had guided Nathan's career, opened doors, treated him like the son he'd never had. He knew about us. Nathan's voice came out as a whisper. He knew everything. He said you had potential, but that I was holding you back. He offered to pay for my father's surgery and ongoing care, but only if I disappeared from your life completely. Emma's voice broke slightly. He said if I really loved you, I would give you the chance to reach your full potential. Nathan sank into one of the elegant chairs arranged for tomorrow's guests. The ballroom began to spin as the implications crashed over him. His entire life had been orchestrated by the man he trusted most. I was young and desperate, Emma whispered. My father was dying, and I thought I was doing the right thing for both of us. I thought you would be better off without me. Your father, did he survive? Nathan managed to ask. Yes. The surgery was successful, and he lived for 8 more years. Good years, thanks to the treatment Richard Whitmore's money provided. Fresh tears rolled down Emma's cheeks. He died 3 years ago, proud and grateful for the extra time we had together. Nathan covered his face with his hands. Emma, I'm so sorry. If I had known, I would have. You would have what? Sacrificed your career for me? Given up everything you worked so hard to achieve? Emma shook her head. Richard Whitmore was right about one thing. You did have incredible potential. Look at what you've built, Nathan. You're exactly where you always dreamed of being. But not with who I dreamed of being there with. The words escaped before Nathan could stop them. Raw, honest, and devastating in their simplicity. Emma stared at him, and for an instant, the walls around her heart seemed to crack, revealing the 20-year-old girl who had loved him with everything she had. I should go, she said finally, reaching for her cleaning supplies again. You have a wedding tomorrow, and I have a job to finish. Wait. Nathan stood up, desperate to keep her from vanishing again. There's so much more I need to understand. Emma, please. There's nothing more to say, Nathan. We made our choices 12 years ago, and we're living with the consequences. She paused at the ballroom entrance, her silhouette framed by the golden light spilling in from the hallway. You're marrying Sophia tomorrow, and I'll be somewhere else, cleaning up after other people's celebrations. Is that what you want? Is this the life you chose? Emma turned back one last time, and the pain in her eyes nearly brought Nathan to his knees. I chose to save my father's life and give you the future you deserved. But Nathan, I need you to know something. Her voice was barely audible across the vast space. Richard Whitmore didn't just pay for my father's treatment. He's been paying me every month for 12 years to stay away from you. And tomorrow, after you marry his daughter, he's going to stop. Nathan didn't remember driving to the Whitmore estate. One moment he was standing alone in the empty ballroom, Emma's revelation echoing in his ears, and the next he was pounding on Richard Whitmore's mahogany front door at midnight. The man who answered looked exactly as he always did, distinguished silver hair, pressed pajamas beneath a silk robe, not a strand out of place even at this ungodly hour. As if he'd been expecting this visit. Nathan. Richard's voice was calm, measured. I wondered when you might come. 12 years. Nathan pushed past his future father-in-law into the marble foyer. 12 years you've been paying Emma to stay out of my life. Richard closed the door quietly and turned to face him. There was no denial in his eyes, no surprise. Only a cold calculation that Nathan had never noticed before. Would you like a drink? You look like you could use one. I want answers. Very well. Richard walked to his study, expecting Nathan to follow. Though I suspect you already know most of them. The study was exactly as Nathan remembered from countless evenings spent here, leather-bound books, crystal decanters, portraits of Whitmore ancestors staring down from oil paintings. It had once felt like a sanctuary. Now it felt like a trap. Richard poured himself a scotch and offered the bottle to Nathan, who shook his head. She was going to ruin you, Richard said simply, settling into his leather chair. I saw it happening in real time. You were brilliant, driven, destined for greatness. But you were also 20 years old and blinded by infatuation. That wasn't infatuation. I loved her. Love. Richard's smile was thin. Love doesn't build empires, Nathan. Love doesn't secure legacies. Love is what makes brilliant young men throw away their futures for girls who will only hold them back. So you destroyed it. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. You manipulated a desperate young woman whose father was dying. I saved her father's life and gave you the future you deserved. Richard's voice remained infuriatingly calm. Tell me, Nathan, are you not exactly where you always dreamed of being? Hasn't your life exceeded every expectation you ever had? That wasn't your choice to make. Wasn't it? Richard leaned forward. I've invested 12 years in your career, Nathan. I've opened doors, made introductions, guided every major decision you've made. Brooks Financial exists because of the connections I provided. Your engagement to my daughter sealed partnerships worth hundreds of millions. Do you think any of that would have happened with Emma Claire as your wife? The truth of it was like acid in Nathan's veins. Every major client, every significant deal, every step up the ladder of success, Richard's influence had been there, subtle but undeniable. And what happens now? Nathan asked. Emma told me the payments stop after the wedding. Because they'll no longer be necessary. You'll be my son-in-law, bound to this family by marriage and business. The threat she once posed will be neutralized permanently. She was never a threat. She was the woman I loved. The woman who would have kept you ordinary. Richard stood, moving to the window that overlooked his manicured gardens. Nathan, I've watched dozens of promising young men marry for love and disappear into mediocrity. I refuse to let that happen to you. Nathan felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. What about Sophia? Does she know? Sophia knows what she needs to know. She's marrying a successful, ambitious man who will give her the life she was raised to expect. What more could she want? What if she wants to be loved? Richard's laugh was sharp. Love is a luxury for people who can afford to be disappointed. My daughter understands the realities of our world better than most. Nathan stared at the man who had shaped his entire adult life, seeing him clearly for the first time. You're a monster. I'm a realist. And I'm the reason you have billions instead of debt, penthouses instead of studio apartments, and a future that matters instead of the small, forgettable life Emma Claire would have given you. She didn't choose to leave me. You bought her. I gave her a choice. Take the money and disappear, or watch her father die while you struggled to pay for treatment neither of you could afford. Richard's eyes were cold as winter. She chose love, Nathan. Love for her father, and love for you. She sacrificed her own happiness to give you the chance to become who you were meant to be. The words hit Nathan like physical blows. Emma had given up everything, not just their relationship, but her own future, her own dreams, to save her father and set Nathan free to pursue success. She's been living off your guilt money for 12 years, Nathan whispered. She's been living off the acknowledgement that her sacrifice had value, Richard corrected. But tomorrow, when you marry Sophia, that debt will be paid in full. Emma Claire will finally have to build a life without the Brooks or Whitmore names attached to it. Nathan turned toward the door, his mind spinning with the implications of everything he'd learned. Where are you going? Richard asked. To call off the wedding. No. The single word cracked like a whip. You're not. Nathan froze, his hand on the door handle. There was something in Richard's tone that sent ice through his veins. I've invested too much in you to let you throw it all away for a sentimental reunion, Richard continued. If you walk away from this marriage, I'll destroy Emma completely. The cleaning company she works for. I own it through a shell corporation. The small apartment she rents. I hold the mortgage. The monthly payments that have kept her afloat. They stop immediately, and I'll make sure she never finds work in this city again. Nathan turned back to face him, and Richard's smile was a predator's grin. Marry my daughter tomorrow, Nathan. Be the man I molded you to become. Or watch Emma lose everything I've allowed her to have. The grand crystal ballroom looked exactly as it had the night before, except now it was filled with 300 of Manhattan's most influential people. Nathan stood at the altar in his custom tuxedo, watching guests file into their seats, and felt like he was attending his own funeral. Sophia looked radiant as she glided down the aisle in her grandmother's vintage Chanel dress, a vision of elegance and breeding that would grace magazine covers for months to come. She smiled at Nathan as she took his hand, and he saw nothing but genuine affection in her eyes. She had no idea her father had orchestrated their entire relationship. The ceremony proceeded like clockwork. Nathan spoke his vows, slipped the ring onto Sophia's finger, and kissed her as their guests erupted in applause. To everyone watching, it was the perfect union of two prominent families, a love story worthy of fairy tales. Only Nathan knew it was built on 12 years of lies. The reception flowed seamlessly from ceremony to cocktail hour to dinner. Nathan smiled at the appropriate moments, gave a speech that brought tears to his new mother-in-law's eyes, and danced with his bride while photographers captured every moment for posterity. But his eyes kept searching the edges of the ballroom, looking for auburn hair and a blue cleaning uniform. She was there, he realized during the third course. Emma moved like a ghost between the service areas, refilling water glasses and clearing plates with the other catering staff. She'd changed out of her cleaning uniform into the black server's attire, but Nathan would have recognized her silhouette anywhere. Their eyes met once across the crowded room as she poured wine for a table near the dance floor. The pain in her gaze nearly brought him to his knees, but she looked away quickly, disappearing into the kitchen before he could react. It wasn't until the cake cutting that Nathan noticed Richard watching him with sharp, calculating eyes. His new father-in-law raised his champagne glass in a subtle toast, and Nathan understood the message perfectly. You're mine now. Completely. The reception was winding down when Nathan finally managed to slip away. He found Emma in the service hallway, loading dirty linens onto a cart. She didn't look up when he approached. Emma. Congratulations, she said quietly, still not meeting his eyes. Your wife is beautiful. She seems kind. I had to do it. The words tumbled out of him. He threatened to destroy you if I didn't go through with it. Your job, your apartment, everything. I couldn't let that happen. Emma finally looked at him, and Nathan saw something that surprised him, pity. You still don't understand, do you? She said softly. Richard Whitmore didn't threaten me to control you, Nathan. He threatened you to control me. What do you mean? Emma set down the linens and turned to face him fully. 3 months ago, I got a job offer. A real one, with a marketing firm in Portland. Good salary, benefits, a chance to use my college degree for something other than folding it up to prop up wobbly tables. Nathan felt his world shifting again. I was going to take it, Emma continued. I was finally going to stop taking Richard's money and build a real life for myself. But then he told me about your engagement to Sophia. He said you were happy, that you'd found love, and that seeing me would only complicate things for you. So you stayed. I stayed because I thought you deserved to be happy without ghosts from your past haunting your new beginning. Emma's smile was heartbreaking. I stayed to protect your happiness, Nathan. Just like you married Sophia to protect my security. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Nathan reached for her, but she stepped back. There's something else you need to know, she said. I'm pregnant. The words hit Nathan like lightning. What? 3 months along. The father was someone I met through work, a good man who wanted to marry me. But I couldn't say yes while I was still in love with someone else. Emma's hand moved protectively to her still flat stomach. Richard doesn't know. No one does except you. Nathan felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. Emma. I'm leaving tonight, she interrupted. The job in Portland is still available, and it's time I stopped letting the past define my future. This baby deserves a mother who isn't haunted by what might have been. Don't go. Please. I'll figure something out. I'll find a way. To what? Destroy your marriage on your wedding night? Abandon your wife for a woman carrying another man's child? Emma shook her head. Some stories don't get happy endings, Nathan. Some loves are too broken to fix. She started to walk away, but Nathan caught her arm. I never stopped loving you, he said desperately. Not for a single day in 12 years. Emma turned back to him, tears flowing freely now. I know. I never stopped loving you either. But love isn't always enough to overcome the choices we make, the lies we live with, and the people we become trying to survive them. She kissed his cheek softly, a goodbye that tasted of salt and regret. Be happy, Nathan. For both of us, be happy. Nathan watched her walk away, knowing he was about to lose her for the second time in his life. But as she reached the exit, the ballroom doors burst open and Richard Whitmore strode in, his face dark with fury. Stop her, he commanded security guards who appeared as if from nowhere. She's stolen something that belongs to me. The security guards moved toward Emma, but Nathan stepped between them, his voice carrying across the ballroom like a crack of thunder. Don't you dare touch her. The remaining wedding guests fell silent, champagne glasses frozen halfway to their lips. Sophia appeared at Nathan's side, her face pale with confusion, still wearing her wedding dress like armor against a battle she didn't understand. Nathan, what's happening? She whispered. Richard's smile was cold and sharp. Your husband is having second thoughts about his new life, my dear. Miss Claire here has been filling his head with romantic nonsense about their past. That's not what this is about, Nathan said, stepping closer to Richard. This is about 12 years of manipulation and lies. This is about you buying and selling people like commodities. I built you, Richard snarled, his composure finally cracking. Everything you are, everything you have, exists because I willed it into being. You owe me your loyalty. I don't owe you anything. Nathan's voice was steady now, certain. And neither does she. Emma stood frozen near the exit, her face white with terror. She understood, as Nathan was beginning to, that Richard had never intended to let her simply walk away. The payments hadn't been guilt money or hush money, they'd been chains, keeping her bound to his control just as surely as they'd bound Nathan. Sophia, Nathan turned to his new wife, knowing he was about to destroy her world. Your father paid Emma to leave me 12 years ago. He's been controlling both our lives ever since, orchestrating our relationship to serve his own purposes. Sophia's eyes widened, searching her father's face for denial that never came. Daddy, is this true? Business is business, Sophia. Nathan needed guidance, and I provided it. He needed the right kind of wife, and I ensured he found one. This sentimentality changes nothing. It changes everything. Nathan pulled off his wedding ring and set it on the nearby service cart. I won't be your puppet anymore, Richard. And I won't let you control Emma's life either. You ungrateful fool. Richard's mask slipped completely, revealing the calculating predator beneath. Do you think Emma stayed for love? She stayed because I paid her to. Every month for 12 years. She took my money and played the tragic heroine. She's as much a fraud as you are. No. Emma's voice was quiet but firm. She walked back toward them, no longer running, no longer hiding. I stayed because you convinced me that Nathan was happy, and I loved him enough to leave him alone. But I see now that neither of us has been happy. We've both been prisoners in cages you built for us. Nathan felt something shift inside his chest, a door opening that had been locked for 12 years. Emma. I'm 3 months pregnant, she announced to the room, her chin raised defiantly. With another man's child. A good man who wanted to marry me, but I couldn't because my heart still belonged to someone else. So no, Richard, this isn't about money or manipulation anymore. This is about choosing love over fear. Sophia gasped, and Nathan saw his new wife's world crumbling in real time. But when he looked at her face, he didn't see anger, he saw relief. You never loved me, Sophia whispered, and it wasn't an accusation. It was a realization. We were both just playing parts in his story. Nathan nodded, feeling the weight of truth finally settling between them. I'm sorry, Sophia. You deserve better than this. You deserve someone who can love you the way you should be loved. So do you, she replied softly. Then, louder, addressing the room full of stunned guests, the marriage is over. I'm annulling it immediately. You can't do this, Richard raged, but his power was already dissolving. I'll destroy all of you. Brooks Financial will collapse without my backing. Emma will be homeless within a month. Sophia, you'll be a laughingstock. Let them try, Emma said, walking to Nathan's side. I'd rather be poor and free than rich and owned. And I'd rather fail on my own terms than succeed on yours, Nathan added, taking Emma's hand in his. Sophia looked at her father with eyes that held 12 years of suppressed understanding. And I'd rather be alone than married to someone you chose for me like a business merger. Richard stood surrounded by the wreckage of his carefully constructed plans, his face purple with rage. You're all making the biggest mistake of your lives. No, Nathan said, pulling Emma closer to him, feeling her warmth and strength and the promise of the life growing inside her. The biggest mistake of my life was letting you convince me that love was weakness. I won't make that mistake again. He turned to Emma, seeing past the years of separation, the pain, the lies that had kept them apart. I know you're carrying someone else's child, and I know we have years of damage to heal between us. But if you're willing to try, if you're willing to build something real together this time, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that love isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes us strong. Emma's tears fell freely now, but for the first time in 12 years, they were tears of joy. Yes, she whispered, then louder, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom, yes. As they walked out of the grand crystal ballroom together, leaving behind the wreckage of Richard's plans and the guests who would talk about this night for years to come, Nathan felt something he hadn't experienced since he was 20 years old. He felt free. 6 months later, Nathan's smaller but more ethical investment firm was thriving. Emma's marketing career in Portland had turned into a consultancy she ran from their modest but happy home. Sophia had moved to Europe and was reportedly dating an artist who painted her with the reverence of a man truly in love. And Richard Whitmore discovered that love, despite his beliefs, was indeed the strongest force of all, strong enough to tear down empires built on lies and create new ones built on truth. Nathan felt his daughter kick against Emma's swollen belly as they watched the sunset from their porch, and knew that some stories do get happy endings, but only when people are brave enough to choose love over fear, truth over comfort, and freedom over control. The end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more heart-touching stories.